Hey everybody, today I'm going to be doing a book review. And I know it's not really something you expect on Dungeon Talk, but Dungeon Talk is about role playing games and more specifically fantasy role playing games. And of course, a lot of it is about Dungeons and Dragons. Well, Dragonlance is a part of Dungeons and Dragons. So, the reason that I'm doing a book review is because Richard A. Knack has a new series out called Rex Draconis. And a lot of you are probably familiar with him from his Dragonlance books that he's written. Of course, there is the Legend of Huma and the Kaz the Minotaur, which is the follow up to that. He also did the Minotaur Wars and a few other books for Dragonlance. The Legend of Huma was the first book by him that I ever read, so I thought. Um, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'd actually read his three short stories that were in the Dragonlance Tales books. So, I didn't recall the name when I saw The Legend of Huma. I saw it was by some guy named Richard Knack. I had no idea who that was, even though I'd already read three stories by him. It didn't click at the time. I didn't know it. So Legend of Huma came out. It wasn't by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, so I was a little weary about it. But you've learned a little bit about the Legend of Huma in the Dragonlance novels, and I thought it was very interesting, and I wanted to see how it happened. I want to see how this knight, rose up against, an evil goddess and defeated her. And it also is kind of the beginning of the story of the Dragonlance. So curiosity got the better of me, and I read it and was not at all sad about it because it was great. I love The Legend of Huma. Awesome book. A lot of people at the beginning of their books they get into trying to establish their characters, and usually this is kind of a little bit of a boring section. It's usually a little bit of introduction to a character, then maybe a little something exciting to keep you interested, and then a little more character development. Um, but The Legend of Huma was the first book I ever read that was just like, bam, here's your character, and he's right in the middle of a war. So that you throw the action right in there, right up front, and introduce your character that way. And he does such a great job of it. Um, it wasn't. It didn't feel. I didn't feel like I was getting gypped on the character's backstory. I felt like I was learning the character as he was struggling. And of course, him and Kaz, come together and um, just the way he introduces his characters and keeps that element there of introducing them at the same time is just great. I love it. And that brings us up to the book I'm reviewing, which is Under the Dragon Moon, which is the first in a series of books called Rex Draconis. And they are by Richard A. Knack. Very much like The Legend of Huma, the book starts you off immediately in the action, and I love it. I love it. Another weird thing about it is, and I'm not the only one that thinks this because I've read it from other people, it has this familiarity to it. Much like Dragonlance. It feels kind of like Dragonlance, but it's its own thing. It's completely fresh. It's not just like, hey, Richard can't, write Dragonlance books anymore because Wizards stopped doing their books, so he's just gonna redo it in his own little setting. It's not like that at all. It feels completely fresh. It's a completely different world, but everything's familiar. It's just he writes minotaurs and knights really, really, really well, and that's kind of his bread and butter. I mean, if you're a cook at a fancy restaurant, if you're like this well-known chef and the best thing you make is fettuccine alfredo, then why stop making it? That's what people like about you, right? I have read some of his other books, Warcraft, Diablos and stuff like that he's done work for, and they're good. But I just when he writes about Minotaurs, I love it. I like Minotaurs. I'm a Minotaur fan, so of course I'm a Rex Draconis fan. Of course, I've got the two different books here. This one came out first. This is the newest one, and there's nothing wrong with this cover. I like the cover and everything. But this one is just freaking awesome. I love that artwork. That is a great cover. Great choice in artist there, Mr. Neck. So the real reason I got two books is because I'm going to read it twice. Actually, I already have. I've read it twice. But I don't want to do any spoilers in this review, so it's just going to be kind of a quick little thing about it. Like I said, it starts you off immediately in the action. You don't have to wait. It starts off in action, slows down just enough to, get by with a little bit of telling, getting you a little bit more familiar with the setting, and then boom, right back into the action. And the end of it is just absolutely great. Great little surprise at the ending there. I can't really say, like I said, I don't want to do a spoiler review on it because it's really much better if you read it. But I'll tell you a little bit of the beginning. It's not really a spoiler. It starts off, they're on this island. These Minotaurs are on this island, and you're not really sure what's going on, but they're fighting with sort of these null-like creatures. They're called Weir, or Weir. I think they're called Weir. I think that's how you say it. But they're kind of like gnolls from Dungeons and Dragons, and they're trying to get to their ship. They've gone onto this island. They didn't realize that the Weir were there, and they started attacking. And they're not really very dangerous one-on-one, but they come in packs, and they can get kind of deadly if they gang up on you. So the Minotaur are running, trying to get back to their ship. They didn't realize that the Weir actually have ships on the other side. So once they get to their ship, even the Weir come around and kind of get a little boat chase going on there. Then they get back to the mainland, and then that's where they run into the knights and stuff. And you can tell there's like there's a sort of a respect between the knights and the Minotaur, but there's also a little tension going on. So it kind of works that into the story, and of course, the knight and the Minotaur end up having to work together. Like I said, that's it. No more spoilers. It's a great book. It's very well written. Just like all the rest of Richard Knack's books, you'll find it's very, very similar. I like his style of writing. I like the way he writes. But yeah, this is... Don't hate me for saying this, Richard, but it's not as good as The Legend of Huma to me, and the reason being is because I'm such a huge Dragonlance nut. I don't think anything will ever, be that good for me. It's just sort of a bias of mine. But it's right up there. I would actually put this at least third in my favorite Richard Knack books, and that would be The Legend of Huma, Kaz the Minotaur, and Under the Dragon Moon. So he's writing another one now, so he's turning it into an entire series. And me and Richard have been working on a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons setting that I started about a year ago, and he wrote a short story for me for that, which will come out when the setting comes out. And I'm going to do a shameless plug here all of a sudden, just out of nowhere. Dark World. Check out Dark World. We have a Facebook page. But yeah, he did a story for me for that, and then and this has nothing to do, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, I have no bias toward Richard because of this, but that's my map. As an artist, I also do cartography, and he had me do the map for his book. And speaking of D&D settings, he is actually doing a 5th edition setting for Rex Draconis. And I believe he's also doing it for Pathfinder. So you have those two things coming soon for Rex Draconis, as well as the books. So I'm very excited about that. The only thing bad I have to say about this is there's no more right now. This is it. But Richard's working hard. He's working on more. So anxiously awaiting that, because it's really great. It's off to a really good start. And I just, like I said, it's familiar, but it's all fresh. It's all brand new stuff. And check it out. You seriously need to check it out. If you like his Dragonlance stuff, you've got to check this out. You have to. It's mandatory. There'll be a quiz on it later. Alright, so I'm going to put the link to get you this book down in the description below. That way you can pick up your own copy, and I highly recommend it. You can pick it up on Amazon. Just really you can do a Google search for Under the Dragon Moon on Amazon. It'll come up. You can buy it. Make sure you rate it. Let him know how much you liked it. And that's about it. It's just, I can't say enough about it. It's a great start to the series, and I am anxiously awaiting more. More, Richard. Put that pen to the paper and get going. Alright, we'll see you later.